May of 2021. He's been working within the maritime industry for over 2 decades with focused attention on operations and business development both on the water and the land side. Prior to his involvement in the maritime industry, he started and ran a successful real estate appraisal firm, was a flight officer for a major international airline, and was a combat pilot in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service. He holds a bachelor's degree in management from the United States Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs, and master's degree in aeronautics from Embry-Riddle University. There's a lot more to tell about Kirk, but I'm going to let him tell you about him and the port. Please welcome Kirk DeJesus. Yeah, space bar should be where you need to go. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me today. This is a high-level discussion here. Typically what I do is go through it and answer questions, whatever. I have a feeling this group isn't afraid to ask questions, so feel free to ask while I go. That's usually the best way to do it. So as you said, I've been port director for 5 years. I've lived in Stockton for 25 years. My wife was born and raised here. Her maiden name is Heffernan, so they've been here for years and years and years. So I consider myself Stocktonian at this point. So the mission of the port and vision, I'll let you read that, but this is something, the port's been around for 93 years. We've never had a strategic plan. It's something we've been working on for the last year. It's quite an undertaking. It's something we've needed, so we've kind of taken a baby step. We've put together a 5-year strategic plan, something that we've needed for, like I said, for quite a long time. It's been quite an undertaking since none of us really knew what we were doing or getting ourselves into. But we were trying to at least give ourselves a vision for the next 5 years. So when we get a new opportunity or a new business opportunity, we at least have an idea if it's something we want to look at. These are our core values. They're pretty standard for a lot of ports and even a lot of businesses. If you look at integrity, accountability, safety, safety's paramount, obviously, in our, if you look at the supply chain and anything working on the water. Sustainability, when we think about sustainability for a port operation, and especially in California, the West Coast, people immediately think about environmental sustainability. We threw in there economic sustainability also. That's something a little bit different. If you can't keep the port running from an economic basis, then what's the point of having environmental sustainability? Collaboration, working with the community, and then obviously fostering a positive culture at the port. So like I said, the port officially started in 1933. The first vessel was the Daisy Gray. It brought in lumber. And to be honest with you, the way vessels are loaded and unloaded at the port hasn't changed much. We're not a container port. We are bulk and break bulk and project cargo. So bulk is what you think bulk. Break bulk is anything that doesn't fit into a container. So that can be lumber, steel, coils, super sacks, which are big 1-ton sacks of, say, rice. And then project cargo can be anything from windmill blades. We've moved rail cars, big transformers, things like that. Containers, we don't do LA, Long Beach, Oakland, those are the big container ports in California. We can't run containers for a couple different reasons. One of them, the big container vessels, we can't get up and down the channel. Not only because of the depth of the channel, but because of the width of the channel and the air draft, the height. We have to the ships have to transverse some bridges, and they're just not, the bridges aren't tall enough. So this is our commission. So the way the port works is we're a special district in California. What that means, we're an independent special district. So that means we are run basically like a regular business. We don't take tax dollars, which is good and bad. It means that we're not beholden to the city or the county or even the state. So we really don't answer to anybody, which is good. We are governed by the Harbors and Navigation Code, so our rules are set forth by the state. We are governed by a 7-person board. 4 are appointed by the city, and 3 are appointed by the county. The only rule for being a county or a commissioner is that you are a citizen of Stockton. So they have 4-year terms, You can be reappointed as long as you want, or as many times as you can get reappointed. The chairman rotates every year. So right now, our chairman is Alan Sawyer. He's fairly new, he's in his first term. Anthony Marquette is the vice chairman, he is in his second term. Mike Duffy, I think he's in his third or fourth term. He's our most senior commissioner. Dr. Greg Page, he's brand new. He's had 2 meetings, I believe. He was recently appointed by the city. Margaret Stevens, Margaret Shea, a lot of people know the Shea name in Stockton. She's in her first term. Bill Trezza, I'm sure some of you know Bill. He is in his second term. Miguel Villapuba, he's brand new appointee. He's a couple weeks into it, and he was appointed by the county. So we have a really good commission right now. They're all business oriented. They understand how things work. So I'm very lucky right now to have this commission.
Is that a paid job?
It is not. No, because the way we're set up, they can't be paid. If we were a harbor, the commissioners for harbors can get paid. But if you're a port commissioner, you cannot get paid. A lot of ports it's an elected position as well. Ours is appointed. So. And typically, if you're a sitting commissioner and you want to be reappointed, they are reappointed. It's very rare that something gets forced out. So where we're located and the benefits. So obviously we're in Stockton. We are two islands. So there's the original port is the East Complex, and I will come over and point out here. So this is the original port. This is the East Complex. This is 600 acres. Ref and Ready Island was conveyed to the port in the year 2000 by the Navy. That's 1,400 acres. So the operational port is 2,000 acres. We have an additional 2,000 acres upriver. So the entire land of the port is just over 4,000 acres. That actually makes us the second largest port in the state from a land perspective, which is great, which gives us an ability to develop. Most ports in California don't have that. The unfortunate part of that is we don't have the second biggest revenue in the state. So we have a lot of assets and we have a lot of infrastructure, a lot of aging infrastructure to upkeep. The biggest benefit I think we have is the intersection of the Union Pacific and the BNSF railroads. So we have the 2 Class A railroads that intersect in Stockton. We have a deep water channel, 35 feet is our authorized depth. Getting the Army Corps to dredge us every year to 35 feet is a real challenge, even though we're authorized to that. We get the funding. I spent a lot of time back in Washington, D.C. I don't want to say begging for funding. Trying to get the funding, and we get authorized typically for the funding. We get put in the presidential budget for the funding. This year we didn't get in the presidential budget for the funding, which is devastating for us, but fortunately, Congressman Harder put an earmark in for us, so he actually put us into his earmark to get us the funding, which is great. It's usually about $6 to $7 million per year just for the maintenance dredging of the channel. So we're responsible for getting the funding. The Army Corps does the maintenance dredging from Stockton all the way upriver to about Antioch or so. Just for comparison's sake, back in 1932, when they dredged the entire channel from nothing to the channel, it cost about $6 million. So now just to maintain it, and it's not like they're dredging the whole channel, they're just knocking off high spots. So when the water flow comes down, we get a lot of sediment buildup. So you have parts of the channel that might be 70 feet deep, but you'll have a place that the sediment builds up to say 28 feet. You just have to knock it down to 35 feet. So it's not like they're taking all of the channel and they're just knocking off high spots, but it is quite a process. The port is responsible for the first 125 feet from the shore, so we do that dredging ourselves. That's our responsibility. The travel time from basically the bay to the Port of Stockton is 7 to 8 hours. The way that works is when a vessel comes in, a river pilot gets on board. So the captain of the vessel cannot pilot the San Joaquin River on his own. You have to have a specialized training to do that. It is relatively tight. So there's 60 pilots that are in San Francisco that pilot the vessels to Oakland, Richmond, Redwood City. There are about 14 pilots that can pilot the river. So we have to make sure those guys are trained. And and they do that for us every year. We have to make sure they're trained each and every year. They're crucial to us. We get about 250 vessels per year transiting the channel, so it's quite a bit. Yeah, 250 to 270 a year, so it's quite a bit. So here's the economic impact that the port has. My staff's about 125 people, but the entire port is responsible for about, well, it says right there, 11,489 jobs. These are jobs that are impacted by the port. We are the #1 taxpayer in the city, the third or fourth highest taxpayer in the county, about $80 million per year. The economic activity that moves through the port, $1.8 billion, and then $657 million of personal income tax.
This is annually?
This is annually, yes. Yeah. So I did mention the port is 4,000 acres. We have 15 berths, which is quite a bit. 2 miles of berth space. Those are all public berths. Some ports will have berths that are dedicated to one company. We don't do that. There's a chance we will do that. If somebody's willing to come in and spend capital and build up that land, we will dedicate that berth to them, but we haven't had anybody do that at this point. So the way it works, if a vessel calls Stockton, they can go to any berth that's available, and then the stevedores will work that vessel, but they're basically public berths at that point. We have 66 miles of rail track that is port-owned rail. It's operated by a short line railroad that's co-owned by the BNSF and the UP. And then we have over 7 million square feet of covered storage on the port. Most of that is World War II era storage. So that's why we have quite a bit of maintenance. It's ongoing. Typically roofs are our biggest issue to keep that going. One interesting thing, the West Complex was a Navy base up until about the mid-'80s. During World War II, ships were built there. It was also a POW camp, which I found interesting. They had German and Italian POWs, and they built a lot of the infrastructure on the base. This gives you a general idea. I will point this out too. So, basically, our docks are in orange. So these are our 15 berths. Right in here, we built a new berth. This is a marine berth. So for marine liquid products, it's called a NOTAMs berth. So it's only for marine liquid oils, things like that. It's the only one that's been built in California in the last 30 years, which kind of gives you an idea how difficult it is to build things on the water in California. The areas in yellow, that's land that's available for development. This area here, which is all this is port, this area here was privately owned. We just purchased it. What we didn't want to have happen is somebody buy that, a private company buy that, and have their own little private terminal inside the port. That would have been devastating, so we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase this a few months ago. The areas in purple are new development. This area here is being constructed now. It's a 650,000 square foot distribution center for Home Depot. That'll be completed in September, I believe. The areas in green are bulk terminal. They could be either warehouses or lay down areas. Typically, the East Complex, we see a lot of cement. Our biggest imports are cement and fertilizer. Makes sense it would be fertilizer. About 25% of the food grown in the United States is grown here in the Central Valley. 95% of the fertilizer that's used to grow that food comes through the Port of Stockton. So cement and fertilizer are our 2 biggest imports. Right now, our biggest export is coal, which is a 4-letter word in California. People don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. Sulfur is also a big export for us. What we're seeing a lot now is the feedstock for renewable diesel and biodiesel. What that is animal fat, vegetable oil, tallow, things like that. These are railed in, stored at the port, and then we barge those out to Pittsburgh, Antioch, to the refineries that make renewable and biodiesel. That's becoming a real big product for us, and that's going to surpass, that will surpass coal pretty quickly. One project that we've been working on for quite some time, and it's hit a few roadblocks, is this whole area here for soda ash export facility. Soda ash is mined in Wyoming. It's used in everything. Flat glass manufacturing, batteries, makeup, cleaning products. Almost anything you use has soda ash. Soda ash is about a molecule away from baking soda. So it's a very easy product to move. It's not an environmental hazard. The companies that we've been working with, the amount of volume they want to export is significant, about 7 million metric tons per year. So for comparison's sake, the port moves about 4 million metric tons per year over the water. So this would more than double our volume, so it's significant. The issue we've run into is while the mines in Wyoming are trying to expand and been trying to get the air permits, China put 5 mines into production and flooded the market with soda ash, driving the price down. So that stopped the mine production in Wyoming. So it's unfortunate, but there needs to be some permit reform, and we've been talking about that with DC quite a bit recently. So that project is on hold. It hasn't gone away completely, but it's on hold. So a lot of the numbers I talk about coming up about future volumes are based on the potential for that. It's probably going to be further out than what the slides show, unfortunately. This shows approved projects. So these are approved and completed projects in the past 10 years. So 2.91 billion in dollars. This is private money. This is not port money. This is not federal money and tax money. This is private money that's been invested in the port, and about 2,500 jobs. The area I talked about on the west side is about $470 million. That's the one that's been approved, but is on hold. So you can back that out of the 2.91 billion, unfortunately. So rail infrastructure is probably our biggest limiting factor right now. I said we have 66 miles of rail. We see about 55,000 rail cars per year right now. They all come in single entrance, single track, and that's down on basically the southeast side of the frame there. We have a rail hardening project that we're working on. That's a $16 million project. When we started that project, it was $13 million, and this is typical. We got federal funding. We've been very fortunate with grant funding. That's one thing that the way we're situated, we can get our funding from either our capital reserves, we can take loans, we can bond, which we haven't done in about 10 or 12 years, or we can compete for grant funding. We've been very fortunate with our grant funding. The rail hardening project, we got $9.6 million from a federal grant. So that's underway now. We hope that'll be finished in probably about 18 months. Rail hardening is just increasing the gauge of steel. With these newer, heavier rail cars, we just need heavier gauge steel. And the rail bridge and improvement project, that's going to dual track most of the rail track we have. When we originally looked at this, it was, believe it or not, $78 million. We started this about 4 years ago. It's now $110 million. Just the cost of everything's gone up. We've backed out the rail bridge on this. We had some engineers come in and they decided we don't need the rail bridge. So that's about $57 million off of that 110, which is fantastic. We got a state grant, a CalSTA grant, about 3 years ago for $47 million. So that's going to cover the majority of it. We are able to reallocate that money to take the rail bridge off, so we can funnel it all into the dual tracking. So we're very fortunate that we're able to do that. So that'll cover the majority of it. We hope to start that project in the next year or so, because we're going to see our rail traffic increase significantly. This shows our rail car volume. I talked about 55,000 rail cars. If the soda ash project comes online, we're going to be well over 100,000 rail cars. So you can imagine we're about 100% capacity right now. So with the additional traffic, obviously we're going to have some significant problems. Also with the emission reduction the state is working on, rails, probably the best way to move. You can decrease, obviously you can move more commodity, decrease some of the emissions. So rail is what's being pushed right now. So that's gonna increase our rail traffic. So we need to be much more efficient. Annual cargo, so I said we move about 4 million metric tons per year across the water. Again, if the anticipated increase in soda ash and some other commodities we're looking at, that's gonna increase dramatically. We hope it increases dramatically. It's gonna increase steadily. If we get the soda ash, it's gonna increase dramatically. We also move about 3 million metric tons across means that are not over the water. So we have pipelines, so 3 million tons over pipeline, rail, and truck to truck that never touch the water. Our cargo mix, this is from 2024. It's a slow process. Our 2025 numbers are coming out probably in the next couple weeks. The mix won't change much. When I first got there, it was closer to 50-50, but our import-export mix has changed, unfortunately. We would like to be a net export port. Most ports would. It's just not the way things work right now, unfortunately. We're about 75-25, so we bring in more than we send out. So I talked about zero emission equipment. That's a big push in California, all up and down the West Coast, and most ports in the U.S. are really pushing this. 60% of port-owned equipment is zero emission. 40% of all the equipment operating the port is zero emission. That leaves the state, probably leaves the country. We've reduced, because of this, we've reduced our diesel particulate matter by 69% over the last 5 years, and our NOx has reduced 54%. Those are dramatic numbers and real significant. We've made a really good move on those numbers. We received a huge, during the Biden administration, they were really pushing this Clean Ports program, and they had quite a bit of money. 4 ports in California received like $1.6 billion in grant funding. We were one of those ports. LA got quite a bit. Oakland, Port Hueneme, and Port of Stockton. We got $110 million with some private partners. Typically, when you get a grant, the grant will be 80% funded and you have to fund 20%. We go in with private partners who can't apply for grants, but they go in with us and we do a regional approach. They fund our 20%. So that's what they get out. They get out of it. The money we get out of it, we don't have to do the match. So it's a great deal for both of us. The money that we got will take us to 100% of our cargo handling equipment being zero emission. We'll put in all of the electrical infrastructure we need. We'll put in solar. On the west complex, we're the utility. On the east complex, PG&E's the utility. So on the west complex, we're gonna need to generate our own energy. We're limited to 25 megawatts, and we're gonna hit that number pretty soon. So we're gonna need to self-generate some utility or some power on the west complex, and this will help us do that with solar. That's the best way we can do it. Wind power is not an option for us there. Hydrogen is probably, nuclear is probably not something we want to mess with right now. So we think solar is probably the best way, and this is going to help us get there. So a lot of what we do is we try and be a good neighbor. Our east complex backs up to the Boggs Track neighborhood, and it's an AB 617 community. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's a community that's been designated that has a higher incidence of respiratory issues. So it's a lower income community with a higher incidence of respiratory issues. So we try and do everything we can, obviously, to bring the emissions down. We're an industrial area, so obviously there's still, anytime you do business, there's gonna be increased emissions, unfortunately. But we do everything we can to try and reduce those, obviously. But we also try and support that community as much as we can. So what we've done is we've done things like this tenant jobs board, where we developed it online. All of our tenants are on it. They can post their jobs. We've given them rent credits. If they hire somebody from this community, from the AB 617 community, we give them rent credits. So we're trying to drive jobs and business to these excuse me, to these lower income neighborhoods. We've partnered with schools, colleges, to try and identify jobs that are that we don't have. We just don't have these skilled jobs to work on these zero emission. We have diesel mechanics and things like that. We don't have mechanics that can work on these zero emission cargo handling equipment. So we're trying to drive these new jobs. If you look, and these numbers I just saw yesterday, I think it's great. 52 jobs have been posted. We had a tremendous, over 30,000 views, and 354 applications. So it's fairly new, but at least we're getting some movement on it. So we've partnered with the box track community in a number of different ways. We do a yearly golf tournament. We've done it 3 years. We raise about $30,000 per year. It's growing. Our tenants are getting involved. We use that money to help with the elementary school that's in the area, the community center, and then there's also a community garden, which is really a great center. They grow their own food. I think it's every Tuesday. Folks can come by and get a free bag of vegetables. It's really a good program. We do cleanups, not only on the Delta, but we go in the neighborhood and do cleanup events, things like that. One interesting thing, and people love this, on our website we have an owl program. When we started taking down buildings, we found that we were displacing a lot of owls. So to help us with our rodent problem, we put up owl boxes. We have 20 owl boxes around the port. So that took care of our rodent problem pretty quickly. We put cameras in the boxes also. So right now, I don't think eggs have hatched, but if you look, and you can go online and look at these cameras. There's a Ring camera inside the owl boxes, and they're getting ready to hatch pretty soon. But there's a time of the year where it's just carnage. All they do is hunt all day, and they bring back rats, and you look, and the cameras just feet everywhere. I mean, but that's all they do. But they definitely take care of our rat problem. So it cuts down on pesticides, and it's pretty interesting. And then so these cameras are real, just still images from last year. This shows countries we trade with. It fluctuates, obviously. Russia was before the Ukrainian war, Russia was our biggest fertilizer partner. They're gone. So this fluctuates, usually about 35 different countries or so we trade with in and out. I think that's really about it. Any questions, concerns, anything anyone wants to talk or know about? Yes?
Is there petroleum distribution that goes through the port?
Most of that's pipeline. So if you go down Navy Drive to go into the port, trucks line up every morning. So typically pipeline comes in, we store it in store it in tanks, and then trucks will come out for local distribution.
So who oversees that in terms of safety and regulation?
The companies. Yeah, the companies, whether it's BP or.
Is that port property?
It is all port property. Yeah.
And where do the pipelines come in?
They're coming in from their refineries.
I mean,
Kinder Morgan.
geographically, where are they located?
They can come in from Richmond. They're all underground pipelines. So if you look, like I live in Brookside, and there's basically pipelines going all underground in these. They're called wetland areas, but in between them, there's just pipelines running through everywhere. Probably underneath us here, there's pipelines. What's that?
East Bay mud easement, that's oil?
It can be. There's water lines too, but there could be oil lines, natural gas, all that. Yeah. They're running under the delta, deep. I mean, obviously, probably 35 feet below the 35 feet, so they're very deep. Yeah.
It goes all the way down March Lane too. Wow.
My son works in that plant.
They're coming from the Bay Area.
Yeah,
so.
switching the tanks and the liquids from the tanks to the.
Yeah, so I was with Kinder Morgan before this, and I worked on the terminal side, but it's pipeline. They're pipeline going from Houston to New York. I mean, it's amazing.
Jeez.
And they move different products, so they'll move diesel, and then Jet A will move behind, and it's just one product. They don't commingle. One product pushes another product. I don't get it. and they'll divert it, and the product they'll know, they'll switch, and they'll divert
Every time
it.
I gas up my car, I wonder, is
Yeah,
this
it's crazy.
really different gas, or is it all the same coming through the pipeline?
No, they can divert it from one to another. It's amazing. Yes, sir.
I heard, was Atherton Island developed from dredging from the,
Probably so.
Yeah.
So when we dredge on an annual basis, we move about 200,000 cubic yards of material. So we've rebuilt natural habitats for different things. We built an overpass using dredge material. So there's beneficial use of this dredge material. They used to think it was, they used to call it spoiled, which is a bad word too. It's not bad. It's not arsenic. It's not bad material. It's silt and sand. So it's beneficial use for sure. One thing that people, I've been getting a lot of questions in interviews with fertilizer. So with the Hormuz Straits and all the fertilizer coming out of the Middle East, we had in February, dry fertilizer we were 152% higher than we were last year, volume-wise, and liquid fertilizer, our volume was 230% more this year than last year. So we had a huge February. That had nothing to do with the war. I think it was just timing of crops and things like that. We won't know how the war is impacting fertilizer for another couple of weeks because it's about a 30-day transit. So it will impact us. We're seeing really good volume of ships right now. For whatever reason, it's cyclical and you really can't, the ships we see, if we see 270 ships a year, 80% of those ships are called tramp ships, where we'll see them once a year. Like the container ships going into Oakland, you'll see the same ships over and over and over. At Stockton, we don't. 80% of the ships we'll see once. So it's really hard to judge what we're gonna get. So when we're budgeting for the next year, it's really tricky to budget what we're gonna see. So we can't really predict what we're gonna see and what we're not gonna see. But we will be impacted I think the fertilizer will be impacted. We just don't know what that's gonna be yet. The tariffs also impacted us. We probably have seen about a 20% dip in volume. We're guessing based on the tariffs.
So you don't have contracts for these, you're just waiting for the ships to come, and how far in advance do you know that you'll be getting shipped in
Weeks,
now?
it depends. You can have some companies that will have contracts. If you, depending on the commodity, like cement, for example, we may know we're gonna do 1 million tons for that year. So you may not know when it's coming exactly. We may not, the customer may, but we will have what's called a MAG, a minimum annual guarantee with a customer. So you at least have an idea for that year what you're gonna get. You may not always know the dates, but you can have a contract for a volume. But a lot of what we do is spot business.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any reason why the import jumped more than the export recently? You showed the chart that the import is like 65% or 70%.
Manufacturing, we don't manufacture here.
Right. Well, shouldn't we export food from here more?
The raw goods, we're importing more raw. I mean, let's see. A lot of the foods we're growing here are being used domestically. We don't, the Port of Stockton, unfortunately, even though we're bringing all the fertilizer, we don't export any food out of here except for rice, which is unfortunate. All the finished goods, almonds, walnuts, things like that we grow here in the valley are sent out by containers. So they're going through Oakland, LA, and Long Beach, and that's really unfortunate, I think, that we're not sending in the finished goods out of Stockton. I wish we could, and we've tried. It's just we can't consolidate the volume to justify bringing a smaller vessel back here that could move those containers out. We could move containers out of here if it was a smaller vessel.
Yeah.
We just can't. When you think about almonds, if somebody is moving, say, 30 million pounds of almonds, that sounds like a lot. It's not. When you're talking about, 36,000 metric tons, that's a vessel. 30 million pounds is not a lot compared to that. Does that make sense? So you can't justify bringing a vessel, and it doesn't make sense for them to move 5-6 containers. You have to have 700-800 containers to justify that. So the finished goods are all going to Oakland, and they're collecting all these with other types of containers, other goods, to send them out. So we just don't move the finished food goods out of Stockton. So we're exporting food goods, but just not out of here. But the U.S. is. Yeah, those numbers were just for Stockton.
if we export more, the city and the county benefit more, right? I mean, there's like tax or fees on export.
There can, I mean, the more volume, yes, yeah, I would say yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the more volume we do, whether it's import or export, the better for the port.
Oh.
Which is, you know, obviously better can be better for the region too. But to your point, yeah, if we're sending out goods, it's better for the region as a whole, I think, yeah. Yeah, net export is probably generally better as a whole.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming.
You bet.
Very interesting. I've always been fascinated, you know, I'm a 45-year Stockton resident, and the port just seems like one of those things that it's kind of just there, but
People don't know about it.
you don't, you know, you drive by it when you drive down the freeway, but to hear the details and stuff is pretty fascinating, so we appreciate you spending the time with us. One more thing before we left, I should have done this earlier, but Nancy, can you come down for a second?
What?
What you do
wrong?
I need your badge.
Oh.
I'll trade you.
Yay.
You're officially off the COGS list. So, so Khalil, I think you're next. So we'll see what the list looks like. And
Yay.
so, congrats, Nancy. Thank you guys for the chaos today. I know it was a chaotic meeting, and I appreciate your flexibility. And I will see you on Saturday, maybe twice. If you're there for the morning event, I'll see you there. And then hopefully I will see you at Chris's house Saturday evening. So thank you, and have a great rest of your week.